to welcome everybody who came out tonight and ask first if everybody's had an opportunity to look at the agenda, if there's anything that anyone wishes to add to that as we begin. I don't know how to do that, Danny. Is it working? No? That's what you're going to do if you turn the thing on. Here, there's another one over here.
You got a couple of shooters,
Yes, okay, this is working.
All right.
Again, we'll say if there's, is there anything that you all wish to add to the agenda? Anyone? See Danny's thinking, we'll give him a minute here.
If, I don't know if you want to talk about, one of the things I was supposed to check in was the price of renting something from Arts for the 208 property. Do you want to add that now or later on?
It doesn't matter, we can put it on there. Their old business.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else have anything?
And a tour of the city properties by council members. Tour of city properties.
Walkthrough tour.
Okay, anything else? All right, then a motion to approve our agenda.
First it.
And second by Michelle. Everybody in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, motion carries. All right, you have before you the minutes. There are 4 sets of minutes there from January 12, 26, it looks like, 14, and February 1. So we'll just take a few minutes, and when I see everybody looking up this way, we'll get a motion to approve those, or any additions or corrections that you might have.
Sure appreciate getting these in advance.
That does kind of help things move along. Thanks, Sean, for that.
If there's not any comments, I'd make a motion we approve them all in bulk.
All right, we have a motion to approve all 4 sets. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Jennifer. Again, same sign. Those in favor, please signify by that raised right hand. Thank you. Motion carries. Treasurer's report is the next thing. You have in your packet, if you take a few moments and look through that before you ask for a motion. And I know you've had an opportunity to look through this already since you got it last week, but take your time to make sure we have no questions on it. Do the same thing. I see most people looking up. We'll ask for a motion.
I guess a confirming question, Sean. It looks like we've dispersed the money from the grants to the businesses.
For businesses, yes.
Yes. And have we sent those receipts into the state to get reimbursed?
Not yet. I'm waiting for the final invoice from Encore Technologies.
We have one more invoice to get, Joe, from Encore Technologies. Sean has spoken to him as recently as today. I saw his email, and he's indicated the date when people are coming, and when we get that one, they'll always sit involved.
Cool. Thank you.
And I confirmed with Frankfurt, we're good on timing. We're okay.
Sean, did you put that under the other miscellaneous? Is that why it's
I
right
did.
there?
Yeah, I saw that this morning as well. It's, of course, the budget didn't call for that by any means. I think I need to set a separate line item just for CARES Act monies in general. But I want to do an amendment to the budget most likely in March. I've got a listing that we need to go through probably as a group, but that'd be part of it.
I make a motion that we approve the budget.
Hold on.
Oh,
Would it be a benefit to us to get a postage machine there at the stamp card?
I asked the post office that in the beginning, before tax season, they said we don't do enough mailing to justify the expense of it. But there is a machine you can also purchase. I haven't looked into it. It's something I just didn't deal with.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second by Michelle. Any discussion on the treasurer's motion, on the treasurer's report?
I'll need to get, I was talking to Jim about the incentive, the downtown development improvement incentive grant. And Jim was thinking that we were probably going to use monies left over in some of these to move for that.
Yeah.
So maybe you could get with me about what that looks like to you, because we do have a meeting about it on Thursday night.
Thursday. Yeah, that's not a problem. It's, yeah.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, call the roll. We're on treasurer's report.
Yes, Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts? Yeah. Mr. Dusing?
Yes.
Mrs. Bowman?
Yes.
Mrs. Humphrey?
Yes.
Okay.
All yeses.
Thank you. Motion carries. Under new business now, we begin with the law enforcement report. It's in all, here's an officer, something.
Sorry, I was a minute late. I had basketball practice.
You win?
Sixth grade. We had a game, but it got canceled. For the month of February, there's a total of 268 calls for service in the city of Crittenden. Just to hit on some of the bigger ones, 23 traffic stops, 13 accident reports, 6 animal complaints, a total of,
One second. Y'all have this. You know you've got the report, right?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
between domestic, well, 8 domestic abuse calls, 6 disturbance calls, 8 911 hangups, 7 motorist assist, or 2 motorist assist, and then 5 basic squad runs or mentally ill persons calls to the city, 10 miscellaneous complaints, 23 extra patrol requests, 38 processes or services of papers that we did inside the city of Crittenden. A total of 19 suspicious incidents, suspicious persons, or suspicious vehicles, 4 theft complaints, 10 wanted person or warrant service checks, and 7 welfare checks in the city limits of Crittenden for the month of February.
Busy month. Okay, anybody have questions for the deputy while he's here?
Todd, the warrant service, 8, is that the same thing as a warrant where you arrest somebody, or the wanted person would?
Well, I combined those, we're checking for warrants, it doesn't say where we serve the warrants, warrant service and wanted persons are 10. Doesn't say whether we made an arrest out of that or just checking to see if the wanted person was at a residence inside the city.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Chief of Fire Department. Where'd he go? I saw him. There he is.
I know that's the corner.
Good evening, folks. Did everybody, I trust Sean got you your readout for the month? Sean, thank you for that. Doing that. If you've had a chance to look it over, dramatically different numbers than what we had last year in January. Thank goodness. That's what happens when you don't have ice all over the place all the time. The number of falls, injuries associated with icing, slippage, cold is down quite a bit, so we were pleased with that. So other than that, folks, anything that you see on the report that you got a question about or have me want to comment on?
How's your staff?
COVID's taking its toll.
I heard that.
It's taking its toll big time. So right now,
I'm sorry, what was the question? I didn't hear you.
how is the staffing doing?
Okay, gotcha.
Right now, we got training going on, and we've got 4 persons show up. And persons have either had it, or they're just getting tired with all of it, or now with the new strains coming out, the paranoia level has reached Bay of Pigs proportion. That was something back in the days, Jim, when you were too young for that, but we had.
Have you all been offered the vaccine?
We have been offered the vaccine. Right now, we're running about 50% that are taken. Unfortunately, the internet and the anti-vaxxers are running rampant, and it's got a bunch of our guys scared. Just because of the fact they don't understand that the flu vaccine that they're offering is a derivative of something that's been around for 17 years. So with that, they just changed the genetic coding. And yes, this is a prepaid advertisement for take the vaccine, and I'm the public servant giving it. This vaccine is important, and I suggest everyone get it. It's been around 17 years, so everybody's saying that we don't know what the long-term effects are going to be. You need to do your research a little bit more. But because of that, we've got a lot of people still staying in. Runs are also down because we're getting some sick people out there that won't go to the hospital because they're afraid of being exposed. So we're getting multiple calls to the same residence for someone, and until it gets really bad, they won't go with us. It's frustrating as dickens. But we'll keep plugging. But thank you for asking, ma'am.
Other questions? Thanks, Steve.
And by the way, Mayor, I've got your all's lights and stuff at the station. They're secured.
All right, thanks. They're not really mine, folks, they're cities. So. Okay, we have the second reading of our ambulance service district ordinance. We've actually had the second reading. I didn't bring it in with me. If you read it, just, you can read it.
Oh,
We have actually had the second reading, but we continued it, so we'll have a second reading this evening for people who are listening.
yes. All right, ordinance number 289-2021, ordinance creating an emergency service ambulance district, whereas the city of Crittenden, hereinafter the city, is desirous of ensuring emergency ambulance services available to all residents of the city, and whereas hereto the city has contracted for said service with various agencies, funding same from the general funds available for such use by the city. And whereas the city, acting by and through its city council, is of the opinion that funding a service of this nature from its general fund into the indefinite future is impractical. Now, therefore, be it hereby ordained by the city council of the city of Crittenden, A, the city council of the city of Crittenden hereby creates pursuant to KRS 108.105 an ambulance service district and an ambulance service tax of 5 cents per $100 full assessed valuation upon all property located within the city and subject to said tax. B, the ambulance service district shall be citywide, and the city tax should be collected in the manner of KRS 108.100, parentheses 4, shall be used solely for maintenance and operation of the citywide ambulance service district. Pursuant to KRS 108.110, the affairs of the ambulance service district shall be operated by a board of directors as set forth therein. There's a listing of powers and duties of directors. Should I read through all that?
You don't need to. Okay, did you have the first reading on, I'm sorry, what day?
The 12th of January.
12th of January. All right, so this will be the second reading. Having heard that, if you wish to consider that this evening, I need a motion to approve. Then a second, and we can open the floor for discussion. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to pass it, but at least we need to, if you want to discuss it, we need to open the floor. By motion, second. So is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Todd, second by Joe. Floor is open for discussion. If anybody has questions or discussions they wish to.
You shared a clarification on the nickel versus 10 cents
I did.
and what that implication is based on, in simplified terms, the 3% rule. Could you explain it to the broader group? Again, it didn't
yes.
sink in the first
As
time.
I understand it, once you set that rate, it becomes then subject to the popular term is House Bill 44. In order for it to raise, it's just as if you want to raise property tax rates because it is an ad valorem tax. and it is subject to House Bill 44, meaning you could only raise it to the extent necessary to not produce more than 3% and 4% of the income that you had produced the previous year. So to exceed that would require public hearing and possible recall. For that reason, just bear in mind that when you set this rate, it's going to not be the simplest thing in the world for your board, not you, but for your board to increase that if they find a need for additional funds. Now, of course, the higher you set it, then the bigger the tax bill is that the taxpayer is going to get come the end of the year. So those are the competing considerations for you. Other questions or discussion?
And just to put some bookends to that, if I understood the math based on the PVA assessment, a nickel gets us 80,000, a dime gets us.
Around 88, and as I understood from from Eli, from our PVA, nickel would get you about 88, and 10 cents would get you about 174, 175, and he didn't sit down and calculate that, but he gave me his best estimate, just because I called him, put him on the spot, and needed an answer right away, so he gave it to me. But I think those are fairly close figures. Now, your choices now are to vote, or if you choose, and you wish to look into this even further, you can certainly do that as well. We do need to have some sort of decision, and a decision or non-decision, one way or the other, come around the first or second week of April is what he expressed to me, if he was going to get it on this year's tax bill. So, what's your pleasure at this point?
I'd like to proceed.
At what number?
I'm sorry?
Okay. I'd like to proceed, but we're gonna have to set a number. I was talking to Jim earlier, and if we set it at the 5, going by the estimates, it would take
Long time if you take to get it up.
10 years to get to 10, because you can only go up at 2
No more
numbers.
than 4% of the income you had the previous year. Unless it's subject to recall. You can go up to full 10 cents, but then of course it's subject to recall. And if you lose the recall, then the district has to pay for it. So it becomes an expensive proposition. In practical terms, if you go up over 4% of the income you had the previous year, you're risking losing a lot more than you could gain. That's the practical term. Chief, had comments? Everybody okay with the? Sure, Chief.
Yeah.
A little more discussion then, so I can get my head around this.
Take your time. He's got some, he wishes to add.
I'm bringing this down so I can be understood. I'm not in favor of the tax, but I'm not against it. The problem is I still feel the EMS service should be a county-wide effort, not dropping the burden on our shoulders, and ours being the city of Crittenden and this council. Unfortunately, if we're going to do it, then let's do it all the way. Because the problem that you're going to see is that, as the mayor showed, if you go at 0.5 with the 4% increase, it will take several years before you get to that 1%. But the problem, as I've seen it, and several of us have already talked about it in the last few years, we're already so far behind in this EMS and dispatch and fire and police funding from the years that even at the 173.5 or 174, if you went to the 1%, even over the next 5 years, we're still going to be lagging far behind in funding and ensuring EMS is able to stay healthy and working. If Crittenden's got to do it, and I understand the reasoning because it's bleeding us, paying this out of the general fund with nothing coming in to help compensate, then the 1% would be the start. And folks, you can always back down if you see that you've met your bills and that there is excess.
But we can't, but the district could.
The district could. However, if you start off at a 1/2, then right off the bat, that board that you put into place is gonna be hobbled by the restrictions that are set in place by the KRS and KAR. If you're gonna do it, bite the bullet, 1%. How many years have people gone without having to pay monies into the welfare and being of EMS? We all need it. That's my thought process. Okay? Thank you.
Any other discussion of the council? Questions?
Did we ever get a answer from Ridge as far as if they got a reduction, if they got COVID money that went to the charges that their cost, or the,
A couple of people met with Dry Ridge. Joe, you want to answer that one? You were there.
I'll share, I don't know if I can answer your question directly. I can share with you, as I think we shared at our last meeting, some of the high-level things that we learned. Their total budget for EMS, based on what their performance has been, let me find my spreadsheet here. Their total fire in EMS was 1.671 million. Half of that was fire, half of that was EMS. So EMS is somewhere around 850,000, okay? Our share of that is about a third. One of the reasons for their shortfall, and the rumor mill had it that it was the number of runs that has increased, and that's not true. The runs are almost identical for the last 3 years, 393 versus 383. What the difference in their added expenses is the amount of reimbursement or recovery for what they build. The bread and butter, how they make their most reimbursement, is on traffic accidents. That is down because of COVID. People aren't traveling as much. But it's being made up for with the same number of runs at a lower recovery rate on Medicare and Medicaid patients. It's kind of like it doesn't have reasonable and customary charges. If I think about a hospital, they kind of pay what they want to pay, and Dry Ridge gets shorted. There's been more of that, so that under recovery of compensation per run is the reason their costs have gone up. And what that translates to Crittenden, our interlocal agreement and our budget was 122 for this year, or 123. 124. Okay. Close enough for high-level discussion. Our piece additional is probably going to be another 50 or 60,000, think around 170 to 180, and that's kind of the synergy with the 10 cents on the tax increase. So that's the Dry Ridge funding story. We asked the question on COVID, and Jennifer, if you can help me, or other people, I didn't hear that they've gotten much on that, much of anything, other than some consumables. We asked, can't you get another ambulance with that? Well, no, we haven't been able to do that. I don't know the reasons for that, but that was kind of the answer that I heard, Jennifer. This is where I shut up, because I've told you more than I really know.
so like looking at numbers, you know, EMS is 800 to 850. For us to be a third of that, you know, we're not, the city of Crittenden is nowhere near a third of Grant County. And I don't understand why we're getting charged that percentage. And then I also, if this year is an exception for COVID, you know, our runs are why is it not just a 1-year hiccup that's going to start to auto-correct over the next 6 months and then get back to where it was the year before?
Well,
You know, that's my
It
my
might,
issues,
it might, but
or part
two
of the issues.
important comments on that. The number of runs are the same, and our fraction of runs is what drives, it's not just a percentage. It kind of turns out to look like that, but it's based on the number of runs, and our number of runs is about the same. And why is that? Our population is actually,
Older.
no, it's higher
Their population.
than George and Williamstown.
Crittenden is the highest populated city within the
Yeah.
county.
So,
You're a third of the police calls in the county.
And I think we ought to pay a premium to have an ambulance in-house in city. So you gotta kind of factor that into the 1/3.
Some of the costs, additional costs that are not gonna go down and are gonna continue to increase were the retirement. And I can't find my notes, but the retirement,
5%.
um,
5% increase this year.
I'm thinking it was more than that. I think it was more like 16. It was huge. And then the other thing, as far as bouncing back from the COVID, what they are losing, every run they make, and I can't find my notes, so don't quote me exactly, but Joe, didn't they say they were losing like $200 to $300 on every run they made from the reimbursement that they were getting? So,
yeah, especially on the Medicare and Medicaid.
yeah, right. So unless it's a car accident, which they get paid pretty well from, if it's just a sick run, they lose that much money on every one of those sick runs.
And I was surprised to hear that they get 0 for transport, nothing. I mean, I was shocked to hear that, honestly.
And also, I think another piece of it is AMR, didn't AMR quit servicing the county this past year, or
They
almost?
service on hospital to hospital transport,
Uh-huh.
but as far as making runs within the county, no. AMR does not.
Right, so we're having to pick up that slack as well.
And Ms. Bowman, last year's numbers were showing that Crittenden runs, the uncollected funding in the Crittenden city area averaged out to $313 per run.
That's what, yeah.
I really wish they could take a page out of Sean's book, because Sean, what he's done with our uncollected tax debt has been just some phone calls, some extra folks. You could probably hire somebody part-time to, and a lot of people didn't even know they owed, ambulance runs and stuff until they get it. So, I'm just trying to, my math brain.
If I may,
Just trying to
unfortunately,
think of ways
one of the truths being is that a lot of the people that service or live in this area
to help.
have Medicare and Medicaid. And because of that, Medicare and Medicaid have set amounts that they will pay. After they pay that, then the services have to accept consent. That means that whatever Medicare and Medicaid pays, that's all they can go after. If you do not have insurance, their option is to go after you aggressively and take what little you might have, or to try the best to get you to pay it. And then if you don't, then what do? Keeps people from calling ambulances if you go after them hard. Because now you get the most vulnerable that won't call EMS because they're afraid of the bills. It's a bad catch-22.
10% of their runs fall in that category, so 40 to 50 runs per year, 0.
I would be surprised if the number was
I
that
think it
low,
was
to
more
be
than
honest
that.
with you.
It was more than that.
Yeah.
It was more than, it was like almost 40%.
I was gonna say, last time I looked at the numbers, sir, they were 38 to 42% of the calls.
Okay, we're talking past each other. The 10% is no insurance at all.
Yeah.
The larger
Yeah, that's
number,
right.
the
Yeah.
40 to 50% was the Medicare and Medicaid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Medicare and Medicaid at least is something. But
Well, if you look at a transport from residence to a hospital, it's a cardiac arrest and you've got to go through and do all this. You'll get $40 from Medicare or Medicaid. You'll get $3 to $7 per mile, and then a $25 oxygen fee. Though you may use $300 to $500 worth of supplies in that one call.
Yeah, how much is a dose of Narcan?
One dose of Narcan is $99, and some people get as many as 5
3 to
doses in
5
one
of
call.
those on one call.
Yeah, did you remember, I can't find my notes, I'm so aggravated, but do you remember what the cost per run was?
That's the high.
It was huge.
I had it for last year, and it's the one Lee quoted, but I didn't write it down for this one.
Per run, they are averaging a cost of $890 some,
Okay.
and they are losing, and based upon last year's numbers, $313.
Yeah, there's-
Per call.
Is the public allowed to ask a question?
In a moment. We're letting the chief in because he's one that's
I
been doing
I
it.
understand, I just,
Let the council finish, then go ahead.
It's just my opinion on, between 5 cents and 10 cents. I don't know a homeowner that's not gonna complain about a 10-cent raise. But when the time comes and you need that ambulance, are you gonna want the Kmart Blue Light Special rolling up on here? Are you gonna have, or do you want the best that the city can possibly give you with the best trained, best equipped, most knowledgeable people in that unit to try to save your life? I'm gonna ask that we go for the 10 cents. It's just gonna take too long, and we're already way behind. Because I don't think Dry Ridge is gouging us. I think everybody is gonna be somewhere in that same ballpark. And we're still, even at the 10 cents, that'll be 2/3 of what is needed just this year. We don't know what's gonna happen next year. We can't raise it again next year. So I think we need to go the 100% that we can get.
So you're moving to amend your motion to that extent?
To the 10 cents.
Who seconded it? Who seconded Todd's original motion?
I think it was Joe.
I seconded
You
the first
second-
one for us to
you
have,
second the
to
amendment?
have discussion.
You second the amendment?
I want to have some more discussion first.
Okay, is there, well, we need to second that, second to the amendment. Because without it, it's gonna die.
We could bring it up again, though.
You can bring it up again. All right, no second to the amendment? All right, further discussion?
Okay, just so that we're all on the same page, Sean provided a 12-page document of the tax rates for several hundred cities in Kentucky, 407. And Crittenden lies about currently lies about 19 cents at number 230. So we're right in the middle of, we're on page 7 of 12. Okay? So if we add that